We'll take you now to some Justin Fields transfer destinations. James, that's kind of the non-actual current recruit, the big storyline that Justin Fields could like to transfer. The report from USA Today was that he was going to transfer from Georgia. ESPN said he is considering it, but that no final decision has been made. And meanwhile, and this is the more recent development, he is now listed in the NCAA's internal transfer portal, which does not guarantee he's going to leave, but it does mean that other schools can now contact him
and Tom,
officially.
If he is going to be in that transfer portal, it is an indication that he's gone, right? Like, I mean, there's no chance, in my opinion,
typically means he's bye-bye.
that he comes back to Georgia. But it's going to be interesting, Tom, because had Trevor Lawrence not been a generational top 10 player last year, this would have been your 2018 #1 player in the country. And some people said him and Lawrence are the best two quarterback recruits in the past 5 years. They just happen to be in the same class. So his numbers look good, Tom. He is big, 6'3", 6'3.5", 225 pounds. He is known as a scrambler, Tom, but he throws the ball 70% completion rate this year, threw for 4 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Limited playing time.
He is a really strong passer, can run the ball. He just reminds me kind of like Dwayne Haskins, maybe with a little more legs time. So I think he could go to Ohio State and fit in nicely there. He could go to Oklahoma, certainly fit in nicely there. I think he'd be dumb if he went to Florida State, which is kind of another team out there rumored for him. But here's the question, Tom. Will he be made eligible next season? And so this is
That's been the more of the recent buzz, too.
Yeah, and when I first heard it, I'm like, why would he be eligible? But then you hear the understory. There was a situation with a
Georgia baseball
player screaming a racial slur toward, about him from the stands. Other students heard it, knew who the player was. Multiple players reported it to the school. That player was kicked off the baseball team. Later apologized for it, Tom, calling for Fields to come in the game over Fromm, but calling him a very derogatory term.
The N-word.
And could that situation be the reason that the NCAA, not even wanting to deal with a situation like that, they just give him eligibility next year?
So you can get an instant eligibility transfer waiver. There are a couple of different things. Hardship waivers. Yeah. So the first one is that the transfer is due to mitigating circumstances, maybe if there's family issues as well, that could be one. Or if there's stuff that impacts the health, safety, and well-being of a student athlete. I think it's a relatively easy case for Justin Fields to go to the NCAA and say, look, I don't want to be here anymore. That's not okay. That's a big problem there. Now, the big thing is beyond that, he has to be athletically and academically eligible, which check mark that box. That the student athlete meets the percentage of degree, i.e. he's on pace, hasn't fallen behind, so check mark there. The big thing is, though, the previous institution athletics administration does not oppose the transfer. Now, if you're Georgia, you're probably going to say, we really can't fight that. That's not something we're going to be able to do, even though I think you maybe could make a bit of an argument there. So on that end for Georgia, maybe, and this is kind of me, falling into the conspiracy theory here, James, maybe you see a scenario where Georgia kind of waits a little bit. They don't immediately sign off, and they get the little wink, hush, nod deal of, hey, we'll sign off on it. Don't go to an SEC school that we're going to play. Don't go to an SEC's program.
And Tom, you saw down there, Shea Patterson's the attorney who represented about 5, 6, 7 players. Thomas Mars. He's also the guy who represented
the transfer closer, as I call him.
Former Ole Miss coach Hugh Freeze in his lawsuit against Ole Miss for like a defamation of character regarding, and that's ultimately not Hugh Freeze, Houston Nutt, ultimately that investigation got Hugh Freeze fired because of their detective work towards his phone records. But should Georgia Fields be transferred from Georgia?
Yes.
Why for yes and for no? I say no. Why? I said no. Why would he transfer? It doesn't make any sense to me. First of all, did he think he was going to beat out? Like last year at site when he came to them,
I agree.
Jacob Eason was still on campus. He didn't decide to transfer until kind of after the SEC title game. And then on this show, if you recall last year, he committed to Washington. He decided, he signed with Washington, decided to go there. But when Justin Fields first committed there, you had a 5-star Eason, a 4-star true freshman Fromm, who was your starter, going to the national championship game. Did you think you were beating both those guys out this year? And you only got to wait 1 year to be the starter at Georgia.
I think he did, and I think that was a mistake on his part. I think this is rectifying that mistake, where he can go play right now and in theory play 2 years and be draft eligible.
So
that's where he wants to go.
Commits to Penn State, flips to Georgia. Now he's going to go to Ohio State, Oklahoma, Florida State. Like, Tom, I don't see much. I know what Ohio State fans are saying. They're getting excited. I think they should be excited for him. This is a generational type talent. But most times these guys who flip every day just don't work out.
And I think that's a very good point. That brings us to the next thing I want to talk about, where we both think Justin Fields is great. But the track record, the history of these top 2 quarterback recruits that transfer, it's actually not that good. That's a big problem there. So Justin Fields, we'll see where he ends up going. Hunter Johnson has left. Shea Patterson has left. Jacob Eason has left. For the most part, those guys are kind of question marks. Maybe Shea Patterson a bit more of a check mark there. Yep. Blake Barnett, Alabama. That did not go well. He transferred twice, Arizona State and USF. Kyle Allen, a bust, then went to Houston. Max Brown, a huge bust. Yep. Gunnar Kiel, a big bust. Jeff Driscoll, well, I guess maybe a little bit more success there. Phillip Sims, a big bust. The reality is that the top 2 quarterback success rate, it's actually very bad.
Yeah.
And to get both of them as hits, that does not work out for them.
Yeah, sure. Tom, Fields does remind me, we said Shea Patterson there being Michigan, but like commits to one school, decommits, goes to another school. Second there's any controversy, anything not going his way, goes to another school. Now, Shea Patterson did seem to work out for Michigan this year, but it just doesn't sit well with me as a college football fan that if you're Ohio State or if you're Oklahoma and you get him, the second you have any controversy, the second he throws an interception and they start giving reps to a Tate Martell or someone else like that, does Fields just go in the corner and pout and decide, I'm transferring again. I'm transferring again, right? So I just am not a fan of this quick of a flip route. If you wanted to be the starting quarterback from day one, Tom, you should not have gone to a place that had a true freshman quarterback in the national title game. I mean, it just makes no sense to me that you would expect to do that. It leads to me that his people watching him or people around his family didn't give him a lot of good advice when he was coming out of high school.
All right, so we'll go through top 10 here. I do want to mention some other schools that I've seen linked in. In reality, James, almost everyone wants Justin Fields because not many were as highly touted as him coming out, except for maybe Clemson. I guess they're the lone exception there. Yeah. Oregon, Tennessee, Texas A&M, LSU, Auburn. As it turns out, there are a lot of SEC schools that I think make sense. Those are kind of more of the long shots I consider. Another team I want to mention here, how about number 10, Georgia Tech? Fields gets to stay in his home state.
Wait, these are the top 15. We're doing 15 teams.
Yeah, I'm just glancing over the top.
I'm glancing up there as I'm getting ready to get my next statement ready. I'm thinking with these. Oh, this is the number 15 recruiting class. This is the top 15 teams for Justin Fields.
Dude, he's like number 2 recruiter.
All right, 15 teams. All right, you take it away.
All right, number 10. How about Georgia Tech? He gets to stay in the same state. He instantly becomes, I think, their best player in reality. Tech figures out their quarterback situation. Now, there are some other guys that are coming back, but as a triple option team, those guys can go play receiver or cornerback. Don't worry about that quite yet.
Tom, let me just be very clear here. I want this on the record. He is not going to Georgia Tech. He would be
I agree.
Georgia Tech. I know it's in-state, but Georgia Tech does not get a number 2 player in the country to come play football for them. This isn't point guards out of New York in the 1990s. They're not getting these big-time recruits to come play football for Georgia. That only happens with guys like Stephon Marbury come down to Georgia Tech. He is definitely not going to Georgia Tech.
Some more dark horses here. How about number 9, Colorado? My mindset here, James, is, well, the DC, Mel Tucker's there now, and he also brought in Jay Johnson to be his OC, who was also a key staff member on Georgia's offense.
That is a possibility for sure, Tom. I wonder what kind of relationship he has with those guys, how strong it was, if he's been looking around. I mean, he's been rumored to be transferred the entire season, Tom. I mean, his last play at Georgia may end up being the fact that they put him in for a fake punt where they were supposed to pass it quicker, snap it faster, whatever it is. But they were placating him all year, it seemed, giving him playing time, taking away from NFL-level quarterback, a future Heisman candidate next season in Jake Fromm, to make sure this didn't happen. So wonder what the relationship is like with those coaches. Wonder if their former boss, Kirby Smart, will kind of just be like, you don't want to do that with this guy. We'll see what happens, but certainly there's some sort of relationship there.
All right, UCLA at number 8. Now, they do have Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who was a top 40 recruit in the same class as Justin Fields, but wouldn't you rather have Justin Fields? And I'll make note here, UCLA, very thin at quarterback to begin with anyway, because Wilton Spade is graduating and Devin Monster has already transferred.
Tom, this one makes a lot of sense to me now. The team only won a few games last year where they ended up 3-9, UCLA, but Chip Kelly has had a great track record. I mean, his years at Oregon as OC and then as coach at Oregon, I think 6 years total at the school between those two positions. And basically, they had a new starting quarterback pretty much every single year he was there and kept him winning 11 games, 10 games, 12 games, a national championship appearance every single year he was there. So I don't think that this is a bad idea at all. But
imagine Fields and Chip Kelly.
A 3-win UCLA team, that's got to be a tough sell.
I also don't know if he wants to go all the way out west. I think he wants to stay a little bit more local.
LeBron did. Why wouldn't he?
Good point. All right, number 7, one that I haven't seen really any buzz around, but I think it makes a lot of sense from all parties' perspectives. Miami, Malik Rozier's gone. N'Kosi Perry played, but he wasn't the guy. I know Hurricanes like Jaron Williams and their 4-star guy from that same year. He redshirted, had a little bit of playing time, but didn't really make much of an impact. Wouldn't you rather have Justin Fields? And Mark Richt has a decent track record with quarterbacks too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Miami makes some sense. They really disappointed, though, on the field this year. And if you're going to be the kind of guy who's going to walk away after 4 months on campus, basically, since technically since fall practice starts, I think you're looking for something that you're not getting there. Playing time for one, but you're not going to want to sacrifice playing time next year to go to 7-5 team. So unless he thinks Miami has all the pieces in place to win the ACC, beat Clemson there, I think it's going to be a tough sell for them.
That's fair. All right, number 6, how about the place Fields originally committed to, Penn State?
Tom, he can and would be the starting quarterback at Penn State next year.
Yeah.
Tommy Stevens, I know he's had some levels of success, but I saw him on the field in person against Michigan, and I actually thought, what, is that like their tight end taking snaps back there? At first, he did not look like a quarterback. He really didn't.
He was 24-41 through the air, 76 carries for over 500 yards, and had 14 catches too. He was an athlete for them.
Yeah,
but he's next in line.
He's next in line, and that'll be a tough sell for Penn State fans next year. He's the quarterback, but Fields will walk in, start from day one. Yeah. There's a clear, huge relationship there. He committed to Penn State as a high school player, and I think James Franklin's going to put the hard sell on him. It's like, hey, man, you're going to walk in here, you're going to start from me for 2 years. Look at my guy Trace McSorley,
The good news for Penn State is if you do miss out, you have Tommy Stevens from 1 year who almost transferred last year. You have a former 4-star recruit in Sean Clifford from my high school, actually. And then they're bringing in 2 more 4-star recruits this cycle.
And, Tom, they had a 5-star, one of the top 1 or 2 running backs in the nation last year that probably walk into a starting role there last year. So that could be a dynamic backfield there in Penn State with Justin Fields.
It's the top 5. Now I think the top 6 are, a good top 6 here. But number 5, how about the Florida Gators? And don't sell me on Felipe Franks. He's not very good. Kyle Trask isn't the answer either. Emory Jones was the guy that they brought in last year, 4-star recruit, number 85 overall. He played a little bit. Franks isn't the guy, though, either. So to bring in these guys, I think makes some sense. Franks is going to be a redshirt junior, as will Trask. Emory Jones will be a redshirt freshman. They also have a 4-star coming in, but he was out to the top 300.
And some people will say, oh, this won't happen. He won't transfer into SEC school. But Ole Miss players transferred. They got Florida themselves got one of the Ole Miss transferred, Van Jefferson.
Just picture it. The world's largest outdoor cocktail. It is now a brawl.
Yeah, cocktail brawl. I like that one, Tom. But Dan Mullen, the coach there at Florida, he has a great track record. Dak Prescott, as coach, when he was at Florida, with Tim Tebow and
Fitzgerald was decent.
Certainly, Nick Fitzgerald. So he definitely has a track record of developing quarterbacks. One of Urban Meyer's longtime assistants, then has been a head coach the past almost decade or so there, Mississippi State, now at Florida. I think this one makes a lot of sense. Doesn't have to go too far away. Sticks in the SEC and gets some revenge against Jake Fromm. I told you should have started last year. I'm going to beat Fromm in the outdoor cocktail party there, I believe, late October. Is it early November? Something like that,
All right, how about number 4, Florida State? This is one of the teams that have been linked heavily to Justin Fields so far. They have 2 guys coming back. DeAndre Francois, James Blackman, if that's the route that they want to go. A little bit thin there. I do want to make a note here that you might lose Sam Howell. He could flip. And then beyond that, you've got a Nolan McDonald, your number 3. He was a 3-star who walked on, so he's not really a guy there. So if you're FSU, you desperately want somebody. But if I'm Fields, James, I don't want to go to FSU. That team has no offensive line. I'm going to take a beating just like Francois did. I'm not going to improve my NFL draft stock if that's what you're looking ahead for. I'd rather go somewhere else, despite the connection there.
Yeah, DeAndre Francois has been the starter there for several years, so I don't think it makes a lot of sense for him to try and go in and compete. If you're going somewhere, you want to go somewhere where you are just basically guaranteed to be the starter. We mentioned Shape Harrison, similar situation last year. He wasn't, guaranteed the spot, but it was clear with what Michigan put on the field as quarterback that he was going to win the job very easily. And Michigan had the defensive talent, offensive playmakers, that they could be a championship-level team, which they turned out to be. One into the final weekend in the top 5. So certainly I think that is what Justin Fields should be looking for.
Although I do think he'd pretty easily beat out Francois and Blackman in the end, because Francois hasn't been that good.
But Tom, you watched Florida State in the field this year. This is not a championship level team.
It's not. It's absolutely not. I agree. I totally agree with you.
I don't think he wants to go to a team that's going to be 6-6, 7-5 next year. Why Georgia goes and wins the national title.
All right, Mississippi State then at number 3. The connection here, James, is Joe Moorhead, who was a big factor in Fields' recruitment to Penn State. They know the system. He's done a good job with quarterbacks in general. And I think an obvious starting spot, because Nick Fitzgerald is gone, they do have Keaton Thompson as the next man up, but he's more of a runner than he is a thrower. He's not very accurate, but he can move on the ground a little bit.
Yeah, Joe Moorhead getting Fields would be a big-time win for him. Get his Mississippi State second year off to a huge start, have the relationship from when he was at Penn State as the offensive coordinator, got Fields to commit, got him to buy in that offense, and really kind of showed him how explosive that offense was in those 2 years when Moorhead was at Penn State. That's what he should be selling him if he gets the opportunity to talk to him. You never know what Fields is going to do. He might call up one of these top 2 coaches that we're going to talk about here in a second to say, you want me? Yes, boom, done, and this might think over quickly. But if he gets a chance to talk to 5, 6, 7, 8 coaches, and he can actually go and make official visits if he wants time to, I think Joe Moorhead is going to throw his hat in the ring that you could be part of a team that's going to overthrow Alabama next
Maybe
year.
a plus for Georgia, at least, is that they don't play the Bulldogs for 3 years outside of potential SEC championship games.
Yep.
All right, number 2 then, and James, if I am Justin Fields, this is what I'm doing. Because I don't see a better pitch in the world than, hey, you're a transfer. I just took 2 transfer quarterbacks, and they won the Heisman. Do you want to make it 3 in a row?
Yeah.
That's where I'd go.
I just don't know why he would not be all over Oklahoma. I would be begging Oklahoma to take me if I was Justin Fields. Now, the early rumors are that they are second fiddle to the team we'll talk about here as number 1. But tell me who scares you in this list. I know Spencer Rattler is a 5-star out of the state, out of Phoenix, Arizona in this recruiting class. But are you going to be scared of a true freshman behind you? There's no entrenched starter, Tom. I think this is a no-brainer for Oklahoma. He comes into a ready-made national championship contender with a proven coach, only 2 years now, but proven back-to-back playoff appearances, back-to-back Heisman Trophy winners for Oklahoma, transfers. Like, it just makes all the sense in the world to me. It makes all the sense in the world. We threw this out there earlier. Like, if they don't get a transfer from Justin Fields, how about the name escaped me, Alabama's backup.
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts, yeah. Why would he not go to Oklahoma? Like, if I was any transfer quarterback that had talent in the world right now,
I'd be begging to go there.
Begging to go to Oklahoma.
I do think the Sooners like Austin Kendall quite a bit. Who's going to be a redshirt junior, a top 200 recruit, and Spencer. I think those two will battle it out. And they do have some depth there with a great name coming up, by the way, Tanner Mordecai. A former 4-star recruit as well. But the reports are, James, that number 1, and I think it makes some sense as well, the Ohio State Buckeyes. At the same time, though, I had assumed it was going to be Tate Martell as the next guy up.
Sure. And
who played a little bit this year.
From what Ohio State fans and pundits tell me, that Martell being, 5'10", 5'11", very short, very small player, one of the greatest high school quarterbacks of all time, by the way.
Video game numbers.
4 straight, state championships in the state of Nevada, national championship as well. That he is the guy, but he fits more of Urban Meyer's running the ball 15, 20 times a game. More of a J.T. Barrett style than a Dwayne Haskins style. Matt Baldwin will be a redshirt freshman next season, and they've got a grad transfer coming in,
West
whatever.
Virginia.
So, like, there's not a ton here for
they lost
Fields to,
Dwan Mathis, too.
Yeah, to compete with. And also, we saw Emory Jones. Ohio State has lost their quarterback commit back-to-back years to SEC schools. Last year to Florida, this year to Georgia. So what would it mean for Tate Martell? He has long been rumored. Martell is another one of these guys, Tom. I think he committed to 3 schools, Texas A&M, maybe Arizona at one point. I can't remember. Also, Ohio State. Martell has long been rumored to be a guy looking to transfer regardless, Tom. He thought he might have to sit behind Dwayne Haskins for maybe up to 3 years, but it seems that Haskins might be going to the pro ranks. So if he goes to Ohio State, their sell is going to be him as like, look, man, Field, Martell doesn't fit this system.
Transfer.
You're going to walk in, and you saw what we did last year with Dwayne Haskins. That is you next year, Heisman finalist. Come to Ohio State and continue that greatness for another 2 years. We'll get you the pros like we just did our man Dwayne Haskins.
And if Fields does go to Ohio State, I would assume you then see Tate Martell now become the transfer guy that everyone wants.
Ooh, Tate Martell then, Tom, to Georgia. Take
Auburn.
over for Justin Fryer.
How about to Auburn?
Ooh.
Because Gus Malzahn needs a new quarterback, and he needs an elite quarterback or elite halfback to have any success in his offense. Didn't have it this year.
How about to UCLA
for
Tate Martell?
That's a fun one. All right, let's recap the top transfer destinations for Justin Fields. Georgia Tech, Colorado, maybe more of the long shots. UCLA, I don't know if he wants to go all the way out west there. Miami could also be a fit if he wants to go with Mark Richt. And then your top 6, I think, are maybe a little bit more set in stone in terms of the most logical fits. Penn State, where he was once committed. Florida, FSU, both made pushes for Fields during his recruitment, and they make sense with needs at quarterback. Mississippi State, with Joe Moorhead there, is, I think, the feasible dark horse. Colorado being more of just a general dark horse. Oklahoma there at number 2, and Ohio State, the reported number 1. So, James, I'll ask you, where do you think Justin Fields transfers?
I have got to think it's going to be Oklahoma, Tom.
Okay.
I know Ohio State is the favorite. I understand that, but I just feel that even with the greatness that they've had, the success they've had, that still feels to me like it's an uncertain situation. He seems to me feels, and I don't know, I've never talked to him, I'm just going on the tea leaves, decommitting, forced his coach to play him, not even letting the season play out. He's already trying to transfer time. It seems to me that he wants everything handed to him. What better situation to be handed to a front runner for the playoffs next year in Oklahoma? And hey, want to be our third straight Heisman Trophy winning quarterback that transferred here? That seems like the ready-made situation. Ohio State doesn't seem as obvious for either of those things, Heisman or a national championship next year.
You're looking for an open quarterback job and a national contending team, UCF.
Big time.
I get
if Mackenzie Milton isn't hurt.
All right, folks, let us know in the comment section where you think Justin Fields will end up.